Shalawam, Israel. Today, I decided to do a full breakdown on Cain. There's a lot of propaganda and misinformation concerning this biblical character. So again, in this lesson, I'm going to break it down to the granule to give you truth using the Bible instead of leaning on my own understanding. Let's start from the beginning. The book of Genesis, chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. And Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was the keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel, and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Salakia. Before I move on, I'm going to show everyone how to properly apply Isaiah 28:10 when reading the Bible to achieve a complete and accurate understanding through the Spirit instead of the folly that comes out of our own minds. So pay attention as I line up these scriptures from the different books to paint the full picture that can never be seen by those that limit their vision on the words of Yahweh. The book of Jubilees, chapter 4, verses 1 through 2. And in the third week, in the second Jubilee, for anyone that doesn't know, a Jubilee is counted in 49-year time sequence. She gave birth to Cain, and in the fourth, she gave birth to Abel, and in the fifth, she gave birth to her daughter, Shalawam. And in the first year of the third Jubilee, Cain slew Abel, because God accepted the sacrifice of Abel and did not accept the offering of Cain. So what's been added in this account that wasn't added in the account in Genesis? Well, we know that Eve didn't have all the children of the world by herself. So in increasing the visibility of this painting, by adding more of God's word to the picture, it takes form as we see that Eve had daughters. Let's continue to expand on this work of the Most High. The book of Jasher, chapter 1, verses 12 through 16. And the Lord God drove them that day from the Garden of Eden to till the ground for which they were taken. And they went and dwelt in the east of the Garden of Eden. And Adam knew his wife Eve, and she bore 2 sons and 3 daughters. And she called the name of the firstborn Cain, saying, I have obtained a man from the Lord. And the name of the other she called Abel, for she said, In vanity we came into the earth, and in vanity we shall be taken from it. And the boys grew up, and their father gave them a possession in the land. And Cain was a tiller of the ground, and Abel a keeper of sheep. And it was at the expiration of a few years that they brought an approximating offer to the Lord. And Cain brought from the fruit of the ground, and Abel brought from the firstlings of his flock, from the fat thereof. And God turned and inclined to Abel and his offering. And a fire came down from the Lord from heaven and consumed it. And unto Cain and his offering the Lord did not turn, and he did not incline to it, for he had brought from the inferior fruit of the ground before the Lord. And Cain was jealous against his brother Abel on account of this, and he sought a pretext to slay him. Now here in this third account, it ties up any missing pieces. We see that the reason the Most High didn't have respect for Cain's sacrifice wasn't because it wasn't a meat offering. It's simply because the fruits that he offered for a sacrifice were trash. Just as it says in Hebrews 11:4. By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. I want you guys to pay attention to the very last part of Hebrews 11:4 when it reads, And by it he being dead yet speaketh. Let's continue. Since Cain was a tiller of the ground and not a keeper of sheep, it wouldn't make sense to offer meat for a first fruits offering, which is the best of your flock or field, depending on which respective field you worked in. And if there is any doubt that this was indeed a first fruit holy day, notice the time frame in verse 15 of Jasher 1, being at the end of the year, which is when the first fruit holy day is marked in the law. The book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 16. And the feast of the harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingatherings, which in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. Fruit was also accounted for as meat, as it says in Genesis and in the law, and viable for oblation on this holy day. Let's get it. The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, and to you it shall be for meat. Here's the law for oblation for the first fruits concerning those who will offer animal-based meat versus those who will offer plant-based meat. The book of Leviticus, chapter 2, verses 12 through 16. As for the oblation of the first fruits, ye shall offer them unto the Lord, but they shall not be burnt on the offering for a sweet savor. This is concerning meat, as in animal meat. In every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt. Neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. Now this is the fruit meat, starting at verse 14. And if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruits unto the Lord, thou shalt offer the meat offering of thy first fruits green ears of corn, dried by the fire, even corn beating out of full ears. And thou shalt put oil upon it, and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it, part of the beaten corn thereof, and part of the oil thereof, and all the frankincense thereof. It is a offering made by fire unto the Lord. Now that we have a full understanding founded through Scripture, and we see that Cain was trying to get over on the Most High by offering some rotten cabbage leaves, roughly paraphrasing, we see why his offering wasn't accepted. Sadly, most of our people think just like Cain, because we let Satan influence us to be selfish, self-centered, and wicked, but we murder our own brother daily in word, if not in deed. Abel was able to grasp the concept that the Most High provided all that he had. So to give the Most High the best that he had for oblation was the least that he could do, for a show of gratitude, versus the influence of Satan, where Cain thinks, since the Most High can make everything he wants, if I have to give something up, he can have my trash, and I'm going to keep the best for me. Learn from that thinking, Israel, and understand that just like Cain, that way of thought process is sure to get you destroyed. Okay, let's continue with Cain's history. Back to Genesis. The book of Genesis, chapter 4, 8 through 17. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. Unfortunately, the account in Genesis lacks detail as to what happened that led up to Cain killing Abel, and where he, being Cain, found a wife in the land of Nod, which leaves room for wild theories and unfounded biblical quackery, such as the Lord making other people besides Adam and Eve before Cain and Abel, and these other people were living in the land of Nod, and all over the earth, and all men were named Adam, and all women were named Eve. which is complete madness and the very definition of leaning on your own understanding. Throughout the scriptures, we see that the Most High is big on names. Everyone wasn't running around here with the same name, especially after you just had Adam name all the animals something completely different in the earth. Come on now, we know better than that. Thankfully, the Most High has provided other written accounts to cast down felonious fallacies. Before we hit some different accounts, let's chop up these few verses real quick and break them down. Back up in verse 14 where it mentions, that it should come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me, is a clear passing of time, showing that no one is there to find him yet, and that with the passing of time, someone will eventually find him because he will be talked about amongst his family for committing the first murder. In addition, I've also heard mention that Cain remained a vagabond in the land, where anyone with a little bit of reading comprehension, or should I say anyone who has actually read the account, should have come to realize that Cain ceased from being a vagabond when he built a city and called it Enoch. A vagabond roams the land. He doesn't marry a wife, settle down, and build a city. The Most High was merciful. So let's get another account. The book of Jubilees, chapter 4, verses 3 through 4, and verse 9. And he slew him in the field, and his blood cried from the ground to heaven, complaining because he had slayed him. I want y'all to pay attention to that, okay? Remember, Abel is complaining because he was slain by Cain. All right, verse 4. And the Lord reproved Cain because of Abel, because he had slain him, and he had made him a fugitive on the earth, because of the blood of his brother, and he had cursed him upon the earth. And Cain took Iowan, his sister, to be his wife, and she bare him Enoch. And at the close of the 4th Jubilee, and in the 1st year of the 1st week of the 5th Jubilee, houses were built on the earth. And Cain built a city and called its name after the name of his son Enoch. So we see over 100 years later, Cain takes his sister Iowan and marries her, which clears up that false doctrine of other people being here besides Adam and Eve. Plus, what does 2 Ezra 6 and 54 say? And after these Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. Which means that everybody on the earth comes out of Adam, including the chosen people, us, the Israelites. Okay, so let's get another account. The book of Jasher, chapter 1, verses 17 through 35. And in some time after, Cain and Abel his brother went one day into the field to do their work. And they were both in the field, Cain tilling and plowing his ground, and Abel feeding his flock. And the flock passed that part which Cain had plowed in the ground, and it sorely grieved Cain on this account. And Cain approached his brother in anger, and he said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou comest to dwell and bring thy flock to feed in my land? And Abel answered his brother Cain and said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou shalt eat the flesh of my flock, and clothe thyself with their wool? And now therefore put off the wool of my sheep, which thou hast clothed thyself, and recompense me for their fruit and flesh, which thou hast eaten. And when thou shalt have done this, I will then go from thy land, as thou hast said. And Cain said unto his brother Abel, Surely if I slay thee this day, who will require thy blood from me? And Abel answered Cain, saying, Surely God, who has made us in the earth, he will avenge my cause, and he will require my blood from thee, shouldest thou slay me. For the Lord is a judge and arbiter, and it is he who will requite man according to his evil, and the wicked man according to the wickedness that he may do upon the earth. And now if thou shouldest slay me here, surely God knoweth thy secret views, and he will judge thee for thy evil, which thou didst declare to do unto me this day. And when Cain heard these words which Abel had spoken, behold, the anger of Cain was kindled against his brother Abel for declaring this thing. And Cain hastened and rose up and took the iron part of his plowing instrument, which he had suddenly smote his brother, and slew him. And Cain spilt the blood of his brother Abel upon the earth, and the blood of Abel streamed upon the earth before the flock. And after this Cain repented, having slain his brother, and he was sadly grieved. And he wept over him, and it vexed him exceedingly. And Cain rose up and dug a hole in the field, wherein he put his brother's body, and he turned the dust over it. And the Lord knew what Cain had done to his brother. And the Lord appeared to Cain and said unto him, Where is Abel thy brother that was with thee? And Cain disassembled and said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said unto him, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground where thou hast slain him. For thou hast slain thy brother, and hast disassembled before me, and didst imagine in thy heart that I saw thee not, nor knew all thy actions. But thou didst this thing, and didst slay thy brother for naught, and because he spoke rightly to thee. And now therefore cursed be thou from the ground which openeth his mouth, to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand, and wherein thou didst bury him. And it shall be, when thou shalt till it, it shall no more give thee its strength, as in the beginning. For thorns and thistles shall the ground produce, and thou shalt be moving and wandering in the earth until the day of thy death. And at that time Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, from the place where he was, and he went moving and wandering in the land toward the east of Eden, he and all belonging to him. And Cain knew his wife in those days, and she conceived and bare a son, and called his name Enoch, saying, In that time the Lord began to give him rest and quiet in the earth. And at that time Cain also began to build a city. And he built the city and called the name of the city Enoch, according to the name of his son. For in those days the Lord had given him rest upon the earth, and he did not move about and wander as in the beginning. So here in this account, for it was beautifully detailed, we see that Cain started up an argument. And when Abel tried to play his brother by basically saying, the clothes on your back are the ones that I gave you, and the Most High know that you hating on me, and he gonna judge you. That sent him into a complete rage, where he suddenly struck and killed his brother with the stone of the plowman tool. And we see, just as I stated, the Most High had mercy on Cain and granted him rest, a wife, a son, where he built a city, and he named it Enoch. Back to Genesis. The book of Genesis, chapter 4, verses 18 through 24. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal, and he was the father of such as dwelt in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jabal, and he was the father of all such as handled the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. Cain has died by the hands of Lamech, his great-great-great-grandson. Even though it's not crystal clear, we can easily link Genesis 4:15, where it says, Anyone who kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on them sevenfold. Genesis 4, verses 23 through 24, where Lamech admits to killing two people on accident, which one is Tubal-Cain, his son, and the other is his great-great-great-grandpa Cain, which is why he says, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold because he killed him, then he should be avenged 77-fold. Let's get another account. The book of Jubilees, chapter 4, verses 31. At the close of this Jubilee, Cain was killed after him in the same year, for his house fell upon him, and he died in the midst of his house, and he was killed by its stones. For with a stone he had killed Abel, and by a stone was he killed in righteous judgment. Okay, that's going to be kind of hard to break down without the full account. So let's go to the last account, then come back to this one to gain a clear understanding. The book of Jasher, chapter 2, verses 26 through 36. And Lamech was old and advanced in years, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. And Tubal-Cain his son was leading him. And it was one day that Lamech went into the field, and Tubal-Cain his son was with him. And whilst they were walking in the field, Cain the son of Adam advanced toward them, for Lamech was very old and could not see much, and Tubal-Cain his son was very young. And Tubal-Cain told his father to draw his bow, and with the arrows he smote Cain, who was yet far off, and he slew him, for he appeared to them to be an animal. And the arrows entered Cain's body, although he was distant from them, and he fell to the ground and died. And the Lord requited Cain's evil, according to his wickedness which he had done to his brother Abel, according to the word of the Lord which he had spoken. And it came to pass, when Cain had died, that Lamech and Tubal went to see the animal which they had slain. And they saw, and behold, Cain, their grandfather, was fallen dead upon the earth. And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this. And in clapping his hands together, he struck his son and caused his death. And the wives of Lamech heard what Lamech had done, and they sought to kill him. And the wives of Lamech hated him from that day, because he slew Cain and Tubal Cain. And the wives of Lamech separated from him, and would not hearken unto him in those days. And Lamech came to his wives, and he pressed them to listen to him about this matter. And he said to his wives Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, O wives of Lamech. Attend to my words, for now you have imagined and said that I slew a man without my wounds, and a child with my stripes, for their having done no violence. But surely know that I am old and gray-headed, and that my eyes are heavy through age, and I did this thing unknowingly. And the wives of Lamech listened to him in this matter, and they returned to him with the advice of their father Adam. But they bore no children to him from that time, knowing that God's anger was increasing in those days against the sons of men, to destroy them with the waters of the flood for their evil doings. Now that we've read a more detailed account, we see that it was indeed Lamech who killed Cain. And he also killed his son Tubal Cain on accident due to his poor eyesight. What I do find amazing, that is Lamech, who was clearly over a 500-year-old man, who was losing his eyesight and gray-haired, was so strong that in an act of anguish, for accidentally killing his great-grandfather, he clapped his hands together and accidentally hit his son Tubal Cain and killed him. Tubal Cain was a blacksmith, so he couldn't have been that scrawny. Yeah, young compared to him, maybe 100 or so. Being that close to creation, we probably couldn't even imagine the strength of Lamech and those men of old. Now back to the other account. Jubilees, chapter 4, verse 31. And at the close of this Jubilee, Cain was killed after him in the same year, for his house fell upon him, and he died in the midst of his house. And he was killed by its stones. For with a stone he had killed Abel, and by a stone he was killed in righteous judgment. In case you're wondering, the house that fell on Cain was his own family, and the stones were the arrow tips that pierced his body. And he died in the midst of Lamech and Tubal, members of his own house. For just as he killed his brother with a stone, he died with a stone. One other verse I wanted to bring out before I end this, which I thought it was interesting, which is the same verse I was telling you guys I was going to bring out at the very end, which deals with Abel's spirit crying out from the ground. The book of Enoch, chapter 22, verses 6 through 8. Then I inquired of Raphael, the angel who was with me, and said, Whose spirit is that? The voice of which reaches to heaven and accuses. He answered, saying, This is the spirit of Abel, who was slain by Cain his brother, and who will accuse that brother until his seed be destroyed from the face of the earth, until his seed perish from the seed of the human race. Oddly enough, we see that the Most High did grant Abel's plea, because the Most High killed all of Cain's seed with the flood. Anyway, that's the lesson for today. I pray that everyone has had a blessed Shabbat, and I pray that everyone have a blessed week. Shalawam.